Now, though some in the Conservative Party are glad to see fiscal restraint, many are unhappy with Rishi Sunak. I'm delighted to be joined now by former Conservative Party leader Sir Iain Duncan Smith, who is Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Gambling-Related Harm. There's going to be a debate on that in Parliament tomorrow, and we'll be coming to that shortly. But Iain Duncan Smith, if I may, can I ask you about all the reports that more help is on the way to help struggling families with the cost of living crisis, and whether you think that help is needed, more help?
Morning, Gloria. Well, two things have got to be said about this. First of all, what is the problem? And I think there tend to be little bits being thrown at us all over the place. The truth right now is the real threat facing not just the UK economy, by the way. These are not problems just in the UK. These are problems felt now in pretty much the developed world. And the threat is essentially a juxtaposition between two things. One is collapsing growth and rising inflation, what they call stagflation. We last faced that kind of problem in the oil crisis, I think, in the 1970s, and I was old enough then to remember that. And the worst thing you can do when you're faced with stagflation is to get on with a fiscal tightening, because that then creates that downward trend on growth. But it doesn't arrest inflation, and inflation will spiral because of the underlying costs, such as energy, which are huge. So you need to tackle that. And so my view has been quite clearly, and I've said it publicly before, I think what we need is a bold move from the government. They've done a number of things which are helpful. Council tax rebates are important, some loans as well. Trouble is, though, these get complex. The public needs to see as something very simple. And my view, therefore, is, first of all, VAT absolutely should be cut dramatically on energy bills, if not got rid of. And the second thing is, of course, national insurance. The proposed rise makes a mockery of any reduction. So we've got headroom. The economy's done much better in the last 12 months. It's got much more money as a result. I don't say that's brilliant, because we've still got big debts, but we do need to think very carefully of using that extra to either postpone or certainly stop the national insurance rise, which will take the pressure off people's shoulders in the next 6 months dramatically.
Thank you for that. Now, the reason we invited you on today is there is a debate in Parliament this week, tomorrow, in fact, on gambling-related harm, and you're Vice Chair of that all-party parliamentary group. Can I start by asking you, why is this an issue that's important to you?
It's important to me, but not just me, as you know. It's a cross-party affair. Well, the problem is that we believe that when the gambling reforms were brought through, and you recall this was under a Labour government, it's not a political point, it's just a fact of life, they were liberalised very significantly. At the time, I was concerned about that, and I warned that this could lead to serious abuses. What has actually happened is that we do have just a whole chain of abusive behaviour by the gambling industry. And in the pursuit of their profits, what they've done is they've literally used those who should least be used, people who have a gambling problem. We know now 7% of the public are badly affected or damaged by gambling, either because they themselves are problem gamblers or they are families of, and we've heard of suicides and serious issues, breaking up family life, and the debts and fraud taking place around this. So we're proposing to tighten up on this and to help restrain this to a degree. It's not anti-gambling, it's just saying get some control back so that these gambling companies don't have it all their own way. And what the biggest, for me, problem has been their behaviour over these things called VIP rooms, where they've been literally targeting, using all sorts of smart computer systems to target those who gamble and gamble beyond their own means. And then they induce them into special areas they call VIP rooms, where they get to meet celebrities who get paid for this, and they also get special free gambling to begin with to entice them deeper in. And of course, they're the ones that you should be protecting, not trying to damage more. So there are a number of proposals we've made to tighten this up so that this actually helps it.
The gambling industry point to research by the Gambling Commission saying that problem gambling is 0.3%, down from 0.6% 18 months ago. What do you say to that?
It's much wider than that, and I don't actually agree those figures. We believe it's at least still at 0.5 to 0.6%, but that's directly those involved. And that's, think of the population. It's 0.5% of the British population of over 60 million. That's a very significant number of people who are now having to have treatment and support. But beyond that, the figure I gave of 7% is all those who are directly and indirectly involved in getting damaged by this. Families. We've spoken to the most desperate situations families are in, to families themselves who've seen their loved ones commit suicide, to go bankrupt, to drag the families down with them, spending money they don't have, lying eventually, having to go to fraud. All these things are damaging, and the gambling companies are behaving really in a very arrogant manner. They think that their ability to make huge profits, regardless of the effect on those who are most affected, and that is a problem that will get worse, particularly amongst young people. They advertise, they spend over $2.5 billion on advertising, targeted mostly at young men, in-play gambling, which shouldn't be around, advertising around football matches, etc. All this stuff is really damaging and will get worse because it's got worse in terms of the advertising and the projection of gambling during the course of the pandemic.
As we come to the end of the interview, forgive me for asking you what the nation is talking about today, which is that punch at the Oscars. Simon Hoare, your Conservative parliamentary colleague, says, "I just hope if someone thought it in good taste to make a joke at the expense of a medical condition of my wife, I'd get up and lamp him." Is he right?
Well, I'd find that an amusing sight to watch. Simon Hoare, he doesn't look to me like much of a pugilist. But anyway, the point I would simply say is, look, the reality is I don't watch the Oscars because I find it a self-serving affair. But that notwithstanding, you can't avoid the clip. All I would say is that I don't think anybody has the right to get up and hit somebody else, whatever the circumstances are. We all get abuse. You will remember that yourself, Gloria. If you're in the public eye, you get that abuse. Whilst you don't want it to be damaging, at the same time, there are other ways to deal with it. And certainly I wouldn't recommend anybody takes action into their own hands, because that can be violent, dangerous, and very, very damaging.
Iain Duncan Smith, a real delight to have you on the show. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Pleasure.